This is a great opportunity to share the latest news about the Las Vegas Raiders, and believe me, this news will shock you. But before listening, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and press the bell icon so you get every update first. Now, let's move on to the latest news. A big update has just come out this morning. The Los Angeles Rams have restructured quarterback Matthew Stafford's contract, which means he's staying with the Rams, and that completely ends the Las Vegas Raiders' hopes of bringing him in. For Raiders fans, this is surely disappointing, because according to reports, the team was ready to make a big move to sign him. So, what happened? Reports say the Raiders only offered Stafford a 2-year contract, which he didn't like. On the other hand, the Rams not only gave him a new deal but also demanded extra draft picks, including the 6th overall draft pick, and, obviously, this wasn't an easy decision for the Raiders. Now that Stafford is no longer an option, the Raiders must find a new path. Reports suggest the team is now considering veteran quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold. Some might argue that the Raiders should go for a young rookie quarterback, but the truth is that this year's draft doesn't have many strong options. Only one player, Cam Ward, is being considered a true first-round worthy quarterback. This is a huge decision for the Raiders. Will they sign an experienced quarterback, or will they take a risk on young talent? And will the team trade their 6th overall pick for a big name, or use it to strengthen another position? The Raiders have a big decision to make about their next quarterback. They could go for a veteran player, but who should they pick? Matthew Stafford would have been the perfect choice. He's experienced and could have made the team a real Super Bowl contender. But now that option is gone, and the Raiders have to look elsewhere. Some people might suggest Russell Wilson, but I'm not convinced. Yes, he's more consistent than Justin Fields, but when it comes to playoff games, can he really deliver? Fields, on the other hand, is unpredictable. He could either be a game-changer or a complete failure. There's no in-between. Then there's Sam Darnold. He's different from Wilson and Fields. Choosing him would mean a long-term commitment, and that's a risky move. He had a solid season last year, but is he really the future? He's still young, and in a few years he could turn into a top quarterback. But what if he doesn't? The Raiders can't afford to get stuck in a bad deal, like what happened with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. The Raiders have a tough choice ahead. They need a quarterback, but who's the right fit? Geno Smith proved that a team can be successful with the right system, and Sam Darnold could be a decent option. But let's be honest, none of these quarterbacks inspire the same confidence as Matthew Stafford would have. If I had to choose, I'd rather take a shot with Aaron Rodgers for 2 years than gamble on someone like Sam Darnold or Justin Fields. Rodgers may be getting older, but right now, he's still better than the other options. Plus, if it doesn't work out, the Raiders could always draft a new quarterback next year. That's a much safer bet than locking in a long-term deal with the wrong player. However, there are already rumors that Rodgers could end up with the New York Giants. It would make sense. He was with the Jets last year, so switching to the Giants wouldn't be a big move. But there's also the question of his personality. Would he clash with the Raiders' leadership? So where does that leave the team? Some people are even suggesting Zach Wilson, but let's be real. He hasn't shown anything impressive yet. At least Darnold has had flashes of talent, even if he hasn't been consistent. Wilson hasn't even done that. If the Raiders go in that direction, they might as well bring in every backup quarterback available and hope for the best. The good news? There's still plenty of time. The season isn't starting tomorrow, and the Raiders don't need to rush into a bad decision. They just need to stay patient, evaluate all their options, and make sure they get this right. The Raiders are making moves, and that's a good sign. The fact that they were interested in Ben Johnson and Matthew Stafford shows they're aiming high. Some fans are frustrated, saying, "What's the point of talking to these guys if we can't sign them?" But let's be real. If you don't start the conversation, you'll never get the deal done. No player magically joins a team without discussions first. Sure, they missed out on Stafford and Johnson, but at least they're trying to build a winning team. The key is making smart decisions. Signing a quarterback to a massive contract without being 100% sure he's the future could be a disaster. What if he flops? What if next year's draft brings a young star like Garrett Nussmeier or Drew Aller, but the team is stuck with a bad deal? That's how teams get trapped in years of mediocrity. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They didn't rush into a long-term commitment. They tried Kenny Pickett, then brought in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It hasn't worked out yet, but they're staying flexible. The Buccaneers waited and landed Tom Brady, winning a Super Bowl. The Broncos did the same with Peyton Manning. Sometimes patience pays off. Now, here's the surprising part. There are reports that the Raiders might trade Michael Mayer and Zamir White. Zamir White isn't a huge shock, but Mayer? That's unexpected. Reports from reliable sources say the team is shopping him, which is wild considering he was supposed to be a key part of their offense. Mayer hasn't been great over the last 2 years, and when the Raiders brought in Brock Bowers, it looked like Mayer's role was already shrinking. We were told the team would use a 2 tight end system, but when they played 1 tight end, it was usually Bowers on the field while Mayer sat on the sidelines. He didn't even play in the first half of the last season. So, the Raiders are actually thinking about trading Michael Mayer. Let that sink in. Remember, they traded up to get this guy. At the time, I wasn't fully sold on the pick. Tight ends don't usually change the game that much. Sure, Brock Bowers is a different story, but overall, there were plenty of other options on the board. Still, the Raiders' front office was convinced Mayer was the guy. Now, 2 seasons in, the team is reportedly shopping him around. According to insiders, there are still teams interested. After all, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. The best-case scenario? Maybe the Raiders get a 3rd-round pick for him. More realistically, it's probably a 4th or 5th. But here's the thing. Has Mayer really proven himself? I've watched the tape, not just the highlights, but the plays where he isn't even targeted. His route running? Not crisp. His separation? Not great. Sure, he's got the size for those 50-50 balls, but he hasn't consistently shown the ability to create plays on his own. Maybe he just hasn't had the right opportunities, but so far he hasn't flashed that star potential. That's why this situation is so tricky. On one hand, the Raiders might not get much value if they trade him. On the other, keeping him could still be a smart move. Mayer was a solid blocker last season, and if he gets a full, healthy offseason, maybe he turns things around. Plus, you never know what could happen. Injuries, lineup changes, shifts in the game plan. Imagine this. If a receiver goes down, Brock Bowers might need to play wideout, and suddenly Mayer is the starting tight end. Or what if Bowers misses a few games? Having Mayer gives the team flexibility. And, let's be real, the draft pick they'd get in return probably won't be worth more than just keeping him around. So, should the Raiders move on? Or should they hold on to Mayer and see if he can finally break out? That's the big question. If the Raiders are serious about trading Michael Mayer, I'd hope they could get a 3rd-round pick, but let's be real, that's unlikely. He's 2 years into his rookie contract and he hasn't exactly lit up the field. That's the tough part about the NFL. Sometimes the value of a player drops faster than you expect. And here's the thing, new management means new decisions. Tom Telesco isn't going to agree with every move the previous regime made. Some players have trade value, some might get cut outright. The Raiders are in a position where guys like Trayvon Moehrig and Malcolm Kuntz might not even be back. If Telesco had been here last year, maybe he would have traded them early and actually gotten something in return. But now, the options are limited. Then there's Zamir White, and let's be honest, his trade value is practically 0. I don't see any team giving up even a 7th-round pick for him. Why? Because he's had opportunities, and he just hasn't delivered. If you're a running back in the NFL, you need something that makes you stand out. Elite vision, quickness, explosiveness, something. But with White, what does he bring to the table? Yeah, he's got straight-line speed, but that's one of the most overrated traits for a running back. NFL defenders are too fast for that to matter, unless you're breaking tackles and making guys miss. And he's not. Now, if this report is true and the Raiders are looking to move on from Zamir White, that also means one thing. They're about to bring in a fresh group of running backs. And they need to. Last season, the backfield was a disaster. The guys they brought in were just bad. Alexander Madison is about to be a free agent. He's probably gone. Amir Abdullah. Maybe he sticks around. Zamir White? He's likely getting cut. So what's next? Chip Kelly and the Raiders front office are going to have to rebuild this backfield from the ground up. 2, maybe even 3 new running backs could be coming in. Dylan Lobb will probably stay, but mostly for special teams. His upside as a true starting running back? Still a huge question mark. And that's the thing with running backs. You usually know early. Year 1 tells you a lot. And so far, the Raiders' backfield needs major help. When it comes to running backs, you usually know early if they've got it or not. Dylan Lobb? We'll give him another year to prove himself. Zamir White? At this point, I don't see any upside. That's why the Raiders must invest in fresh talent this draft. And the good news, this draft class is stacked with running backs. We're talking about at least 15 guys who are going to make an NFL roster, some even as undrafted free agents. But the real story, there are 6 or 7 running backs in this class who could be day 1 starters. These guys are going to step onto the field and immediately get 10-plus carries per game. That's how deep this class is. If I'm the Raiders, I'm not leaving this draft without 2 new running backs. Imagine grabbing a guy like Caleb Johnson in the 2nd round, then finding a steal in the 5th, someone with the talent of a Bucky Irving-type back. The Buccaneers got Irving in the 4th round, but this year, you could find a player like that in the 5th or 6th. That's insane depth. And it doesn't stop there. Miami's got a beast in Damian Martinez. He's probably a 4th or 5th round guy. South Carolina's Rocket Sanders? Phenomenal back. Battled an ACL injury a couple years ago, but he's still got serious potential. He might even fall to the 6th or 7th round. Then there's R.J. Harvey. Watch his tape and tell me he doesn't remind you of Josh Jacobs. He'll probably go in the 3rd round. Bottom line, the Raiders need to load up on playmakers, and in today's NFL, running backs aren't just ball carriers, they're weapons. Line them up in the slot, run them out wide, get them moving on drag routes, hit them with screens. Chip Kelly knows how to maximize versatile players, and that's exactly what the Raiders need. At the end of the day, if Kelly doesn't see the explosiveness he needs in Michael Mayer or Zamir White, then it's time to move on. White? That's an easy decision. Mayer? I'd hope they can find a way to make it work, but if not, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.